Most people live in a bubble called normalcy bias. It's the whisper in your ear that says the sirens are just a test, the smoke is just a neighbor's barbecue, and the shaking ground will stop in a second. But when the evacuation order actually hits, the bubble doesn't pop, it shatters. You aren't greeted by a calm, orderly line of traffic. You are met with the raw, unfiltered noise of human panic. Imagine this. The grid is down. The air is thick with grit. Your phone is screaming a discordant alert tone you've never heard before. In that moment, your home transforms. It is no longer your sanctuary. It is a structural trap. You don't have an hour to pack suitcases. You don't even have 20 minutes to find your favorite shirt. You have exactly 300 seconds. 5 minutes. That is the difference between being a survivor who walks out and a statistic found by the recovery team weeks later. In this scenario, 99% of what you own is trash. It's dead weight. Your vintage vinyl collection? Dead weight. That expensive espresso machine? Dead weight. Even your heavy winter coats buried in the back of the closet might be dead weight if you can't reach them in 10 seconds. The brutal truth of evacuation is that you can only save what you can carry at a full sprint while your heart is hammering at 180 beats per minute. So, what do you grab when the world is ending in 5 minutes? We are going to break down the 10 non-negotiable items, but we are also going to talk about why most people fail to grab them. Rule number 1. Biology dictates survival. You start with water, but don't just grab a heavy jug from the fridge. Grab a bottle you can clip to your belt and, more importantly, grab a way to make water safe. A personal filtration straw or water purification tablets weigh less than a pack of gum, but give you access to thousands of gallons of water from questionable sources later. Water isn't just hydration, it is cognitive function. Without it, you make bad choices. Bad choices in a crisis kill you faster than the disaster itself. Second, let's talk about calories. Most people panic pack heavy canned goods. Do not do this. You are not stocking a pantry. You are fueling a machine, your body. You need density. Peanut butter, high-calorie energy bars, beef jerky. You want foods that don't require cooking, don't require water to prepare, and don't make you thirsty. Think about morale. Food to a piece of chocolate or hard candy can reset a panic brain in a moment of high stress. Third is your engine, your feet. If you are evacuating in flip-flops, heels, or thin sneakers, you have already compromised your survival. The ground outside is likely covered in glass, twisted metal, sewage, or fire embers. You need sturdy, broken-in shoes or boots. Tie them tight, double knot them. If you injure your feet, you become immobile. In an evacuation, mobility is life. If you can't move, you must wait for rescue, and in a mass-scale disaster, rescue is not coming for days. Fourth, paperwork. This is the boring part that ruins lives later. When the dust settles, you become a refugee in your own country. You need to prove you are who you say you are. Identification, passports, deeds, insurance policies. But here is the pro tip. Don't just rely on paper. Have an encrypted USB drive with digital copies of everything. And cash. Cash is king when the power grid fails and credit card terminals are just black bricks. Small bills are better than large ones. No one is making change in an apocalypse. Fifth, your medical lifeline. If you depend on insulin, heart medication, or inhalers, these are more important than food. You can starve for 3 weeks. You can die from a missed medication dose in 3 days. And don't just grab the bottle, grab the prescription paper too. Add a spare pair of glasses. If you lose your contacts or break your main glasses in the chaos, you are effectively blind. You cannot survive what you cannot see. Sixth, technology. Your phone is your lifeline, even if the cell towers are down. It is a flashlight, a map, a survival manual, and a storage device for family photos. But a phone without power is a glass brick. Grab a power bank and a cable. Better yet, grab a solar power bank if you have one. Download offline maps of your local area right now, before the internet goes dark. When the networks flicker back to life, you want to be the first to send an "I'm safe" message. Seventh, illumination. Darkness feeds panic. You need to push back the dart. A tactical flashlight is great, but a headlamp is superior because it keeps your hands free to climb, carry, or help others. Throw in a few glow sticks. They are reliable, battery-free, and can be used to signal for help or mark a path for others to follow. Light is not just for seeing, it is a signal of hope. Eighth, the most versatile tool in human history, a blade. Do not carry a weapon for the sake of a weapon, carry a tool. A solid, fixed blade knife or a high-quality multi-tool can pry open a jammed door, cut a seat belt, prepare food, or make kindling for a fire. It extends your capability to manipulate the physical world. In a disaster, your environment becomes hostile. A blade helps you tame it. Ninth, environmental protection. You might be evacuating into a storm, into ash, or into freezing rain. Hypothermia is a silent killer. It kills faster than hunger and faster than thirst. You need a shallow waterproof jacket, a wool hoodie, or a Mylar emergency blanket. Cotton kills when wet, wool keeps you warm. And don't forget your lungs. If the air is full of smoke or debris, an N95 mask or even a dense cotton scarf can buy you the ability to breathe while others are choking. 10th, the vessel. A backpack, not a suitcase with wheels. Wheels don't work on rubble. Not a duffel bag that occupies your hands. A backpack keeps your center of gravity balanced and your hands free to open doors. Hold on to your children or climb. Keep it light. The ounce is pounds, pounds is pain rule applies here. Now, we arrive at the hardest part. The physical items are easy to list. The psychological barrier is nearly impossible to break without preparation. When you have 5 minutes, you will hear a voice in your head. It will tell you to go back upstairs for the photo album. It will tell you to grab your grandmother's jewelry box. It will tell you that you have time to save the laptop. You must silence that voice. That voice is a liar. That voice gets people killed. Evacuation is a transaction. You are trading your possessions for your life. Every second you spend debating the value of an object is a second the fire gets closer, the water rises higher, or the exit route gets more clogged. You must become cold, calculating, and mechanical. Your philosophy must shift from preservation of assets to preservation of breath. As you step out the door, do not look back. This is biblical, and it is practical. Looking back slows you down. Looking back invites hesitation. Looking back drags your mind into the past when your body needs to sprint into the future. The house is just wood and stone. The car is just metal and rubber. They can be rebuilt. You cannot. The world outside the door will be unrecognizable. People will be freezing, screaming, and making fatal errors. You cannot save everyone, but by being prepared, you ensure you don't need saving. You become an asset to the rescue effort rather than a liability. 5 minutes, 10 items, 1 mindset. Survive today, rebuild tomorrow. When the clock starts ticking, don't think execute. Because in the end, the only thing you truly own is your heartbeat. Keep it going.